You're listening to Talk to Seattle, and I am your host, Jason Rigden. On this episode of the show, I travel back to Cal Anderson Park to talk to people about their feelings about the Chaz, aka Chop, the Zone, that whole area. I'm going down there frequently, trying to interview people to see what their feelings are, trying to collect stories and opinions. And this is what I got today. Today is not very representative of, the entire population of the Zone. I only got 2 white dudes, so I'm sorry about that. But hopefully hopefully you'll still find some value in their perspectives. And if you're listening to this and you want to share your perspective about the Chop, Chaz, whatever you want to call what's going on in Seattle right now, please, I've got my contact information in the show notes. If you want to talk to me about it, just talk to me, informally. And of course, there will be actually a link where you can just schedule an interview to come on the show. If you want to come on the show and talk about the Chop, there's literally a link down there. You can just do it. There's no gatekeeping here. You just come on the show and we will just talk. Okay. So without further ado, I'm just going to go right into it and hopefully like these interviews. Thank you. Do you want to give your name or not? You don't have to. It's totally up to you.
Sure.
Yeah. What's your name?
My name is Judd Nichols.
Okay.
I'm actually a public defender and filmmaker from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay.
This is day number 2 in Seattle for me.
Okay, sir. What brought you here?
I came here to check out more of the... I came here to check out what I believe in some sense started in Minneapolis and is spread throughout the country. When I say it, I don't really have a name for it. I call it momentum because I'm trying to maintain a strong sense of objectivity. I think some people would call it something other than just momentum, but that's how I see it. And I knew that momentum had at least garnered attention here in Seattle for what they're doing in this autonomous zone or occupied protest area. So I came here to see what it was like. I didn't read too much about it, but I think it's probably best if you want to learn something and if you're able to just go. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Are you working on like a project about it or just kind of trying to like experience it?
Both.
Yeah.
I'd say experience it so as to maybe distill that experience in video and audio form.
Yeah.
So that other people can experience it, and rather than just reading about something on your phone, you can watch and listen in the video format so that perhaps you'll learn or feel something deeper than just the cheaper political spins that are often put onto stories like this.
Have you been to Seattle before? It's the first time?
I came to Seattle like 10 years ago when I was applying for colleges. I was thinking about going to the University of Washington. But I ended up going to the University of Minnesota, so it was gorgeous when I came here last time. It's gorgeous now. I've never experienced rain in Seattle, so I'm not sure my perspective really matters.
Yeah, so what's been your feeling of the Zone? Seems like the most, I suppose, the thing to call it.
Yeah, the Zone here, well, I've only been here for a day, but my feeling is kind of a mixture of like maybe a music festival combined with a retreat combined with a bit of the protest vibe, kind of creating something new and saying something important.
Yeah.
But it's I think decentralized organizations present like a really interesting paradox because you want organization, but you must listen. But someone needs to be heard when they're talking, and so it is a bit unfamiliar, if I'm honest.
So you're from somewhere else. How has it been explaining to people from elsewhere what's going on here? Like a lot of people have a lot of wild ideas about what's happening.
Right. I think explaining to other people what's going on here has been a little bit challenging because they have assumptions about whether people got hurt and how and what were the backstories there, and being here more on the ground hasn't provided me much more clarity on some of those issues. All I can clarify is what I've seen and felt, and I haven't sensed any of that particular
Have
negativity.
you experienced the supposed checkpoints where people are asking for money?
That's a good point. Yeah, I remember hearing about that prior to coming. I have not been...
Several people have emailed me saying, well, is it true? Do you have any pictures of the checkpoints? I was like, no. No.
Right, yeah. I have not experienced any checkpoints or any shakedowns or security posts. I've heard discussions about security, but it hasn't presented to be as state-like, ironically, in the way it's being described.
Do you have any feelings about the future? Like right now, it seems like the mayor wants to make moves to kind of get rid of what's going on here.
Right. I feel very uncertain about the future insofar as it relates to the mayor's statements. I think politically, that might have been a calculated move, that just by saying that you get some points. Whether certain types of actions necessarily follow from that and when, seems really hard to say. The issue that politicians, I think, are having with putting the kibosh on certain movements is if you do set a time and place, you're kind of calling for war. So I don't know if it would be smart for the mayor to give a place and time for such action, because it would necessarily allow everyone here to create the type of organized resistance that might make such a move as that more precarious.
Have any other thoughts or feelings you want to share with the audience at home?
Well, to the audience at home, the thoughts and feelings I have are just try and experience what you hear about for yourself if you possibly can, and maybe also realize that we might have a lot more in common with people on the other side, whatever side you're on, than you would tend to assume. Most people are human beings that are curious about one another. We have a good social nature inside of us. Take advantage of that rather than how you perceive other people's opinions on your phone.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So I'll ask you again. Do you want to use your name or not?
Yeah, my name's Eric. Folks, if they're interested, they can actually hit me up on Twitter as well. I'm at Old Crick, OLDCRICK. Is this a good position?
I was just readjusting. I want to make sure I get you as good as possible, without it not being right in your face.
Right.
So
I've been here pretty much 24/7 on site at the Chop. Whatever people are calling it, the Chaz, the Chop. Since the 12th. And prior to that, I was coming here every day for as much of my day as I could. Since the 31st. That was the first day that I was able to get out to join the protest, but I've been trying. I'm chronically homeless and underemployed for the last 10 years, and I was actually I was outside of Portland when everything started happening in Minneapolis. And I immediately, had to find a place to put my things, put my stuff down in a friend's place where it's safe, and came out here. Met other genuine people who are out here trying to understand the situation, trying to keep everyone safe, trying to educate people, and just hooked up with people that I met here, and now I'm staying in their tent, and they make supply runs, and they have people here as much as they can. The majority of people here actually, this is not as much of a homeless encampment as it looks like, because many of the people here have homes, they have apartments or whatever, places they can go back to, places that they do go back to. They recognize the importance of being here and sustaining this protest, so that we can potentially actually get our demands met, or some demands met, our demands, the demands. It's hard to say, in my personal opinion, the national Black Lives Matter movement has a much higher capacity to implement change. It seems like a national organization could have the capacity to write an actual bill to go to legislation. But as far as I know, they have not even attempted to do such a thing. And whenever I look at their list of demands, they seem to kind of peter out in a way. They become specific in some ways and vague in others, which is kind of frustrating to me. I want to see, like, okay, you can write the bill. Like, you can update the 94 crime bill. You can do whatever it takes. Write something, cut out a few words of let's change our sentencing structure. Let's change our entire court structure. There's so many things we can do. When we talk about abolishing the police, defunding the police, we're also, of course, talking about funding the social programs that matter, that make a difference, that actually make life worth living. People say Black Lives Matter. Well, how much do their lives matter if we're all just at work all the time? How much do our lives matter if we spend 70 hours a week at work? Are our lives actually mattering to ourselves? Are we able to enjoy it? And so one of the things I say frequently is that Black joy matters. Everyone's expressions of joy is extremely important. That's one of the things we saw here, that the media really tried to play up, that like, oh, it's like a festival.
Yeah.
And that attitude is real. That attitude, and I believe that attitude should be real. If you've ever been to a festival, it's a beautiful place to be, because people are there to enjoy themselves. They're not there to create conflict. And that's what we need more of in our regular everyday lives. We don't need more financial institutions and insurance institutions saying, well, we could really use more money for that, so let's jack up the price. Let's limit access to that. We don't need real property interests saying, I could buy that, I can develop that. It's those 100 acres are producing whatever, $1 million a year. Well, if I put a few more apartment complexes on that, I can rake in 10 million a year, 100 million a year. The concentration of people spending money, if you just look at rent alone, it's insane. Insane amount of money is going to rent. So I'm trying to get people to think about rent strike. I'm trying to get people to think about a general strike. We need to stop funding, both with our labor and our economic interest. We need to stop funding the military-industrial complex altogether. It's all tied in. It's all capitalism. So we need to talk about socializing essential services, socializing access to food and healthcare and water, all types of medicine, education, transportation, utilities, including potentially mobile data, actually giving people cell phones. It's absurd that we even have like an issue with voting when there's like 10,000 coders and their moms are all ready to write an app that just gets it fucking done. Let's give us a week window. Let's get everybody to like cast our votes and say, 50% of people have cast their votes yet. And by the end of the window, you can actually change your mind. You can change your vote to the other person. You just say, this is what I'm gonna vote for, and I have until the end of this period to cast my vote, to change it in any way, shape, or form, which I want it to be. We have so much available to us. It's just a matter of putting those tools together in the right method.
Well, the only innovations that seem to be happening in democracy are in regards to voter suppression. There's nothing to increase the voters' rights or increase their freedom or ease of voting.
Exactly. And we see that all over the nonprofit industrial complex. It's how do we make more affordable housing? Not how do we house everyone?
Yeah.
It's not how do we make the services, how do we get the services where they're needed. It's how do we make them affordable to more people, which is freaking bullshit.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy when people are like, oh, well, who's going to pay for it? Well, I mean, maybe we just work a few hours less designing a missile, testing a missile, and we work a few hours more just in the field, just examining, well, was this a productive agricultural method or not? Maybe we'll try a different way. Maybe we'll put I think we have 0.1% of people are actually 0.1 or 0.2% of people.
Podcast.
I'm doing an interview.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm a medic.
Nice to meet you, medic.
Awesome.
Come around. I'm here all the time. Come around later when I'm not interviewing. We should talk. One of the things I'm doing here is just trying to meet as many people as I can.
How's that going? I mean, it seems like, in my experience, that there's different levels of friendliness, unfortunately.
If you can find a way to break the ice, it seems like most of the people who are coming here are really genuine. They're really, even the residents who are pissed off that their park is in this
our park.
Exactly. Our park is in this. Many people see it as a sort of disarray.
Yeah.
Or there are overflowing trash cans in it. But
the city could easily take care of that.
The city could very easily take care of that, and they are choosing not to because it promotes the thing.
The message they want to be sent out there. Yeah.
They want it to look like it's a mess, and they want it to look. But the city has refused to allow services even into the area. On Friday night, early Saturday morning, there was an incident with a shooting. Yeah. It's been popularized. The person involved. There was a person involved who died, and there was another injury involved, I believe.
Was there one this morning also? I think
there was another incident this morning. As far as I know, that person. I was told that they robbed somebody. I don't know the details of the robbing, whether it was just like a person in a vehicle or whether there was a business or anything involved, or whether there was even a vehicle involved.
Yeah.
That occurred. I heard those shots and I ran toward where it was all happening. People were like, "Oh, I don't know." And then a few minutes later, we found out, there's a person shot in the leg. There was a white male supposedly with a gunshot wound in their leg, and that was right in the middle of the intersection when I showed up. They were right in the middle of the intersection. Fire and police and riot gear showed up. Now the police are extremely. I think they're honestly afraid of us because they don't know, and they're really afraid of things that they don't know. They can't. Necessarily verify. They've got undercovers, I'm sure. I believe there's tons of federal undercovers here with a lot of nefarious interest. But for the police, the local police themselves, and the other local services, they have made it explicitly clear to us. Now, I can't confirm that they actually said this, but through their actions, I believe it is true, that they have made it explicitly clear that they are not going to send any services here. Not at all. If we need services, we need to bring the people who need those services off location.
Which has happened, right?
Which has happened.
Done a really good job.
But actually, none of these altercations have occurred technically on location at all. They've all been on the street perimeters. Every single one. And it's a huge slap in the face to have the city, not even come to the perimeter in a reasonable matter of time.
It seems to me that they want it, like we were saying with the garbage, like it's this theme of like we want to make it look as bad as possible.
Exactly.
And anything we can do to contribute to that.
Yep. Yeah. And so there's been people on social media have done good documentation regarding that, specifically the incident that occurred on the first Friday night, early Saturday morning. Specifically, that has been documented quite well regarding the response time. The fire and EMS said, we're not going to show up until police have cleared the scene, have said that it's safe for us to show up, and the police are saying we're not showing up at all because we're afraid the protesters are going to hurt us. Our water bottles are apparently very dangerous.
Well, they've had this long. On social media we've got a lot of this today about the many attacks against police, from their milkshakes to their hamburgers, and they're all so often just turned out to be fake, like the incendiary device that they were trying to show.
Literally a candle for the vigil.
Yeah, per candle, right? Yeah, yeah. So one thing I want to ask you is, you've been here for a while. You know, one thing that I've seen is like a lot of people vying for leadership positions. And it seems like almost every other day I hear some group that I haven't heard of before. Like yesterday, I believe the group that was, do you know anything about the group that was supposed to be meeting with the mayor yesterday? Okay. Yeah, it seems like not too many people knew who this group was and how they got a meeting, but that seems to be kind of a theme.
That's definitely a theme. Anytime there's a supposed meeting with supposed leadership, there is no attempt to speak to the folks here on the ground or the folks who are trying to organize in any capacity digitally as well. I see absolutely zero of that. And in similarly to that, you know, all the leadership that shows up on the ground, all the leadership, quote unquote, shows up on the ground, they typically show up with a crew of all black bodies. They show up. I never see them until they're literally talking about the meeting they're trying to host, and then I don't see them after. Yeah. They show up with a crew of all black bodies. They have megaphones. You know, they talk emotionally, and they spend a lot of time in the emotional aspect of it, which, as far as I can tell, with the movement, that's totally fair. You know, we deserve to express our emotions, but we really need to focus more on what the fuck are we actually doing. Like I said, I think that the demands they made are extremely vague, and essentially they're causing an ineffectualization of the movement, because people are trying to get involved in many capacities as they can, and essentially they're getting shut out by these leaderships. And I think that is, whether they know it or not, many of those people in those leadership roles are counterinsurgents. They might know exactly what they're doing, and oftentimes I think they do. I have been spoken over several times by several of the same people. We should be empowering black voices. I'm a white person myself, but I'm also, I'm an abolitionist. Race is a social construct, such as money and property and gender. These are all social constructs. We empower them by our behavior, by our social exchanges with each other. But there is an empowerment for visibly black bodies who are willing to be loud and willing to step out and say whatever they're willing to say. And that's been a dangerous aspect of this whole conglomeration, because people are speaking over each other when they should be listening to each other. We should be hearing out. I try to speak as concisely as I can to as many facts as I can, and when it's appropriate and quickly. I am of the opinion that anytime there's a big meeting, like we see the General Assemblies with upwards of 100 to 300 to 500 maybe even people trying to participate, kind of standing in a circle, I think if you can't say what you want to say in under 90 seconds, or at least start to get to a point, then you probably shouldn't be speaking to us. You probably should hash that out with your personal friends more, and figure out what you need to be saying, what you need to be sharing. So I see a lot of like grandstanding in a way, and white bodies do it too. So it can be really frustrating. The other day they had a PA system finally for one of the meetings, and I thought, because I've been thinking, like, if we're gonna have these meetings where everyone's supposed to be listening to one person, you literally can't do that in a crowd of 200 people with one megaphone. There's logistically impossible, and one megaphone ain't that loud. So they had a PA system, which I was really excited about, and it worked for about 4 minutes.
Oh no.
And then whatever happened, it stopped working, and then they were just like, okay, I'm just gonna pick up the megaphone again. And they started using the megaphone, and I was like, well, I'm out because I can't hear this at all. Yeah. And the couple, not every person who talks do I want to listen to personally. And I'm sure I'm not alone, but not everyone Not everyone has the capacity to analyze. Many people are. I brought it up. There's a psychological term called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where in psychology, people have a bias. People with less capacity at a task frequently have a bias wherein they assess their capacity to be greater than it truly is. And that's a huge issue in places like this, where everyone is extremely genial and they want to empower everyone else to speak. So unfortunately, the voices who are potentially not progressing are given that platform, even though they may not necessarily deserve it. And there's many more voices who should be being heard.
What do you think is the future for this place? I mean, but yesterday we just had the mayor tell a whole bunch of stuff about it.
Yeah, yesterday there was a big sort of rumor started, I think. Supposedly someone at a meeting somewhere said, oh yeah, the police are coming at 8 p.m. A couple of friends and I were very skeptical of that, and as the time approached, I became more skeptical because, what major police action is going to start at 8 p.m.? Yeah. They don't want to waste their freaking time with that. They stood on that line for, 11 days, and like clockwork maced us at 7 o'clock. If police were gonna do a big action like a sweep to try to kick us out of here, that's a whole day project. They would start that, in my opinion, they would start that early in the morning. I don't know. I haven't read the police books or the tactics, but
yeah. It just seems like there's so many people here that it would take so long.
At any given time, there's probably at least 2,000 people in the zone between the field and the few streets that we have.
Yeah. I got kind of paranoid and worried, but then I started looking into it and I was like, well, no one has anything to back up this rumor. Like, I didn't see anything. I was like,
I didn't
feel
see
like
any
there should be
evidence.
Something maybe. Yep. I wonder how many times these rumors are started hoping to spook people to get them to leave.
Exactly. Frequently. Very frequently. And unfortunately, I believe that some members of our security team may have contributed greatly to that. Okay. The people who have placed themselves in those roles where they believe they are capable of potentially keeping out or de-escalating folks who have nefarious interests, who might be willing to come here with arms that they're willing to discharge.
So I keep on hearing about the security, but who are these people? Are they just self-appointed?
I consider it an anarchist working group. Okay. Folks came together near the beginning and, said, I have this experience, I have active duty experience. I understand, I can speak to these things, and that people kind of grant authority through ability. Okay. As far as I can tell, mostly it's a demonstration of ability.
So the power is coming not necessarily from there, just saying that I am in charge, but the people are kind of giving them authority.
There has, as far as I can tell, it's been pretty organic and genial. There have been moments of contention and disagreements. I've seen people sort of forcibly ejected from the security team in a way. In my opinion, everyone needs to be a quote-unquote security officer. Everyone needs to be educated to the degree that they can assess the situation. But like I said, the Dunning-Kruger effect is strong here. Many people don't have the capacity to visually assess, and that's where we need to be more social. We need to just talk to each other, talk to your friends, be like, hey, that guy gave me weird vibes, that person gave me weird vibes. Just be careful around them, or maybe try to assess and see what they were up to. And so that's one of my things. Like when I was earlier on, I was being much more nosy. I would follow the security team around and I'd say, sometimes they would be like, this guy looks kind of weird. We haven't talked to him yet. He just showed up. I'd be like, do you want me to talk to him? And they'd be like, sure. And I would just go over and say, hey, how do you like what's going on here? What do you think about the space? I try to teach people like the the elbows up, one love kind of thing that I think one of our may have been one of our homeless population who lived here long before this, who kind of started that because of coronavirus. People stopped shaking hands. People are even kind of averse to doing a fist bump, so we started doing the elbow thing, and that's a thing that's been around in like kitchen circles for a long time, giving an elbow because you don't want to touch someone's gloves on the line. You can just come in and say, what up? So this is kind of a cool atmosphere in that sense that everyone's on the train, that fucking police brutality is wrong. It's absurd. No matter how guilty you are, you shouldn't be beaten by someone who does not have the authority to judge. We have
people that are there to enforce the law shouldn't be the ones breaking the law.
Exactly.
That's wild.
Yep. We need to end qualified immunity. We need to redesign new social systems that address the issues which lead to the situations that people believe that police response is necessary for. We have to address the underlying issues, and that's the criminalization of poverty. Largely like 99.9% is due to the criminalization of poverty.
Yeah.
And I can say that confidently because I know that the undercover operations that that people might disagree with me, but the CIA and other groups are involved in are part of the process of the criminalization of poverty. They are intentionally keeping people on drugs. They're intentionally getting people to do drugs that might induce psychoses. They're intentionally getting us to fight against each other and discourage each other. They're intentionally having this empowerment of black bodies who I was at just the other day, Como News was doing a thing, and they were kind of in the middle of the street, and there was a car trying to go by. It was at one of the barricades on 12th, and this looked like a local traffic was just trying to get by, and I could see the person driving, and they're going, excuse me, excuse me, like get out of my way so I can drive through here. And I guess they were doing a live segment, which I find hard to believe. But supposedly she was doing a live segment, and this was I think it was either Cairo or Como. I mixed them up. And I just walked up. I saw the person try to get by, so I was like, well, that was rude of them to do that. I'm gonna go ask who they produce for. Yeah. Because they should be wearing badges in the first place. They should be visible. I should not have to walk up to a cameraman and be confused about who you're working for. So I asked them, I said, who are you guys producing for? And she was like, don't interrupt me. Like literally all it takes is Cairo. It takes a half second to say that, and
what happens to them having the little microphone with the little station? If I part of a station,
exactly.
Might have a little box on it.
Exactly. And so I asked again, and eventually I don't know if they finished or they gave up doing their live segment, and she just turned to me and she was like, I'm here for Black Lives Matter. What are you here for? I was like, whoa, you are clearly not here for Black Lives Matter. I don't care how black you are. You are not here for Black Lives Matter because you are producing for this station who is telling goddamn lies 24/7. So she started yelling at me, and then some greens, I call them greens, some kids who didn't know what the hell they were doing, all jumped on her bandwagon and started yelling at me. Oh my God, what a situation.
Yeah, it seems like...
trying to figure out how we are going to move forward, where we are going, and easy comes to this meeting.
Were you here when the mayor came through? I thought that was the most absurd thing I'd seen.
What day was that?
I'm not sure. I know it's kind of a cliche now. All the days run together.
Mm-hmm. They really do.
Yeah. But I just remember I saw the picture like right here in the garden, and I was like, people know my opinion. She hates this.
Oh yeah.
And her and that ghoulish
Uh-huh.
Oh, gosh. Oh, I should bite my tongue. I'm going to say she's real mean. But it's like having her and the chief lead that march just seems so absurd.
Absolutely.
It just seemed like is that classic thing of like neoliberals and like co-ops everything.
Yep.
And you know, my example is always the Che Guevara shirt, right? It's like, you know, it just absorbs and digests and then neuters.
So this is
We are having a job community meeting, a job impromptu community meeting in the middle of the field right now. I encourage and implore all of you to join us. This is a very important impromptu meeting that we're having. If you are willing and kind to figure out.
Unfortunately, these sort of situations where he's announcing in a meeting occur rather regularly.
Okay.
And if you're not on site, if you don't happen to be where he walks by with the megaphone, you just don't know. You just don't get the information. You don't get informed.
And obviously it seems hard to know what faction is trying to organize this meeting or that.
Extremely hard.
Yeah.
And it's extremely hard to know, you know, they obviously have an agenda. They want to talk about, I'm guessing they want to talk about the actual organization of the field and defending the field.
Yeah.
But this is, you know, people say that autonomous zone doesn't describe what's going on here, but it pretty much does. The federal government is treating this like an independent nation, refusing to allow services to come in and trying to infiltrate and sending counterinsurgents to upset the situation. I can say that confidently. That I believe that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Folks may disagree with me.
Were you here when the right-wing guys? I think they're still.
If you live within the job boundary, this is a meeting for
this
you.
gentleman who's walking here, their name is
If you live within job,
and they are
this is a meeting for you. Please join us in the middle of the field right now.
they are I guess the interim person, I guess the person who goes by Mommy is she works with SPU, so those are SPU, Seattle Public Utilities. I guess Mommy is the person who's responsible for getting us that's Akbar, he's a pedophile. Hey! This guy's a pedophile! This guy in the red shirt! He's not welcome here! Time for you to go, Akbar. You ain't fucking welcome. Akbar's wearing a red shirt today and he's not welcome here! No, we know he's on the list. He's a sex offender. Yeah. He's on the list. I don't know. I don't know what his real name is. But he's a mess. He ain't welcome here. Because that's what he calls himself. So yeah, we have situations like that. Yeah. And folks like myself who are willing to speak up, we get the goods. Informed direct action gets the goods. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's little CO, the highway terrors from South King County, out here being security, beating up Nazis and shit, you feel me? Putting on for 2-5, you know. What's the podcast called?
What was that?
What is the podcast?
Oh, it's Talk to Seattle. Yeah, real original. Yeah. Yeah, do you want to talk? You don't have to if you don't want to. Yeah.
Basically, I'm out here because it's fucking police, and I think that they should be, like, they're just got too much going on. They have the policing themselves, like, y'all motherfuckers are stupid. They got neighbors snitching on neighbors, and then just, like, bro, just keep them niggas out the union. Like, what are you paying them niggas for, to harass you, to put no contact orders on you, to tell you can't have guns, which is your amendment given right? So if that amendment's out the window whenever they say that, then all of them are out the window.
Yeah.
So what the fuck? Like, what the fuck?
I mean, yeah, not even like
This
plus
shit could be taken further, but it's peaceful. But it's like you have the right to form a militia. And
voting rights are all
overthrow the
fucked too.
government if you're unjust and you're infringing on your God-given rights, So really, this shit could be taken a lot further.
Yeah.
I think it should be, but who am I? I'm just out here being secure.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Good luck out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange. I mean, I personally just want to really capture what was going on here, but there's no way to do it. Like I did some like face-to-face interviews and I wasn't too happy. Like what we're doing here is I feel like getting a lot more to it.
Yeah.
Like people aren't necessarily ready to talk, and it's a while to even just get used to talking in the microphone. Like
I brought up this with a lot of people is that we need the social services. People understand stop police brutality, but they don't understand. Most people don't understand defund the police. Most people don't understand abolish the carceral state.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't have a concept of what that looks like.
I always wonder if the term is counterproductive, because unless you already understand, for a lot of people when they hear it, they get so polarized immediately because they're so brainwashed with what's the term I guess with the propaganda? Is that
propaganda. Supposedly we've had these uprisings have had an impact on some propaganda production. I heard a rumor that Live PD or something like that. There's like a literally a live TV show where they follow around police is being canceled, as far as I heard.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that was an incredibly wild show. I remember my wife is a nurse, and when she was on the surgery floor, everybody recovering from surgery would just be watching this stupid show because it's like the only thing you can get on state cable that's engaging. That's gone. I think the actual show costs has been also
may have been canceled.
Because there's a really great podcast
that's one of the
about
longest running. That's one of the longest running shows on TV, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a great podcast about how it started, and it's just as ugly as you might
believe
imagine.
it. Yeah,
and they're just like doing things of like recreating crimes. Just for the camera.
Yeah.
They would already have somebody, but then they'd like, and these poor people being arrested, they would go along with it.
Right.
Like they would lie to them and say, well, if you do this with cameras,
minutes,
then
right?
Well, they were told. People said that they were told by the producers. Well, like if you do this, it'll probably help with your sentencing later.
Right. Hey guys.
Hello. How you doing?
Do you smoke weed?
Oh yeah. Oh my God! Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hell
Someone
yeah!
else could use it more than me.
Oh my God! You're such a blessing. You're such a blessing. Thank you so much.
That's what.
Oh my God! Oh my God! I love it here. For real. I really do love it here. Despite all the issues, I still love it here. Yeah. And early on, my first night here, I realized that I have never felt safer in my life than when the police fled their precinct, and the genuine people out here got to protect ourselves. We protect us. We don't police us. We protect us. I try to tell everyone that we are taking the harm reductionist approach to everything. We're taking the harm reductionist approach to social services, like when I'm a homeless person myself. I've experienced chronic underemployment and homelessness for the last 10 years. And when COVID struck, we lost homeless services. Basically disappeared altogether because the public libraries shut down. The fast food joints and like coffee places stopped allowing people to come in. So that was all my hygienic bathrooms, all my access to water, all my access to getting out of the weather, at least in the daytime, just disappeared in moments. So when these protests began, this became a place where I could get services, not just where I could have meaningful conversations and teach people and learn from people and experience all of these true affinity groups who just pop up because people care about doing something enough to do it on their own until other people show up to do it with them. All these services popped up. I can just walk over somewhere and can just pick up water. I can just pick up a bottle of water. I don't even have to talk to anybody. I can just pick up a bottle of water. There's bathrooms. The city has stepped in, and as far as I know, are the folks who provided the bathrooms. As far as I know, there was no leadership or any organization saying, "Hey, let's get some porta potties." Because if they did, I would hope that they would have got more, because they're a freaking mess. But I believe the city of Seattle themselves, SPU, stepped in and did that, and they've stepped in only to that degree where they are sustaining our life, essentially, not to the point where it's actually a well-meaning service.
Because I think one thing that they're really afraid of in this place is there's that idea of, like, are people, like, fundamentally bad or good?
Oh, yeah.
I think they're somewhere in the middle, but, like, the state and the establishment wants us to believe that people are fundamentally bad.
Right.
For the state, we would all be killing each other. And this is a place that's proving that wrong. It's such a fundamental attack on the establishment.
Exactly.
That's why the president himself is focusing in on this, like, to an insane level.
To an insane level.
Like, it's just a city park that the president of the United States is interested in for some reason.
Yeah, and the feds are interested because this encourages others.
Yeah.
This is extremely encouraging to any socialist, anarchist-leaning person. Any person who wants to be able to hold government officials accountable. And it's really, really important.
Have you heard of any other places like this popping up around the nation? I hear rumors, but I haven't really seen anything.
Supposedly, DC is actually making a solid attempt to do something similar to this.
Okay.
And of course, they're meeting brutal opposition. Especially in DC.
Yeah, DC is pretty awful.
And
like the number of insane, like, federal agents, like the prison guys were out there. It's like, those are probably the worst people to have on the line.
I only recently learned, I've probably heard it before, but I only recently felt the impact of how our voting districts are gerrymandered. And I recently learned that the prison population is counted in those votes, even though they literally don't vote. So the prison populations are stuck into more conservative-leaning districts.
Yeah, it's like a whole thing.
But as if it matters, because the Democrats passed the '94 crime bill essentially all by themselves.
Well, we have this, like, two-party system where there's no real opposition.
No.
There's just a moderate and then a far-right party.
Far-right capitalist and slightly less right capitalist.
Yeah. And that's what we have with Biden. I mean, Biden just did that tweet saying about how, he supported overthrowing Venezuela. It's like, we don't have a choice. Like, there's nothing here. It's violence. Like, once again, it's just more wars too. Like, I think that's what a lot of these guys think is that the solution to this is just to start another war somewhere. Invade Venezuela, find somewhere, get these kids fucking busy. Which is like their classic thing, right?
Classic, the school to prison, school to military to prison pipeline.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Totally, I have more. I'm around, but
I figured.
I've hopefully said all the things I wanted to.
Yeah, I think you're setting up there, so I figured it's probably gonna get loud.
Oh yeah.
You've been listening to Talk to Seattle, and I have been your host, Jason Rigden. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like to share your opinion about what's going on Capitol Hill right now, there is a link in the show notes. Click on that link, and you can schedule a time to be on the show to share your opinion. Once again, if you want to share your opinion, your thoughts, your stories about what's going on Capitol Hill in the CHOP or the Chaz or whatever you want to call it, there's a link in the show notes. You click on that link, you can schedule a time to be on the show to share your story. can be as long as you want, well, within reason, or as short as you want. I really encourage you to do that. I really want as many voices as possible to talk about this. Thank you so much for listening, and stay safe out there, okay?